Pretty naive, in my opinion, to think that there couldn't be any manipulation, shall we say, or a little bit of foul play, a little bit of monkeying around with the election process.
I will not support it if something out of the ordinary happens, but if everything is copacetic, then I will support it.
We need somebody that looks for the people and are for the people. We need help here.
Welcome back to our Your Voice, Your Vote 2024 coverage. We just heard from Wisconsin voters who today attended Donald Trump's third rally in that battleground state. Some of those voters already doubting the integrity of our elections. President Biden won Wisconsin in 2020 by a mere 20,000 votes out of almost 3.3 million cast. And just across Lake Michigan this weekend in the state of Michigan, the grassroots Republican organization Turning Point USA held a summit to energize student and young adult voters. Here's what Trump's former chief strategist Steve Bannon had to say.
You realize if they win, if they steal this election, because they can't win the election, right? No chance they can win it. If they steal this election, and they fully intend to steal it, this republic ends.
ABC's Deputy Political Director Averi Harper joins us now. Averi, we just heard from Steve Bannon. There were several other Republicans there who were alluding to this idea that the Democrats were going to try and steal the election again. These unfounded claims we continue to hear at this point for several years. Why do you think that Republicans keep going back to this playbook?
Because it has been successful in energizing and mobilizing the Trump base. It has carried Trump through the primary elections. It's garnered him millions of dollars in fundraising. I don't think we're going to hear him change or pivot in terms of that message, but I do wonder if it's going to garner him support as we get to this general election with independents. I don't think it's going to get him the support that he's going to need in order to come out on top. He has to message to independents, to even dissatisfied Biden voters, and that's not necessarily a message that is appealing to them.
And of course, over the weekend, Donald Trump did meet with voters from a historically black church in Detroit. Now, Detroit is an area where President Biden won by 95% back in 2020. What do you think Donald Trump's angle is?
Well, the Trump campaign is pretty openly courting black men. They are trying to get folks to turn out for them. And they're also trying to take advantage of some of the softening that we've seen in support from black Americans for the Biden campaign. But I think it's really important to note, and you made this point, that African Americans overwhelmingly vote Democratic. And so I think the bigger risk for the Biden campaign is actually that black voters, and more specifically black men, that they stay home rather than they're going to vote in droves for former President Trump.
All right, Averi Harper, our thanks to you.
Thank you.
And to continue the discussion, I want to bring in veteran political strategist Mark McKinnon. Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Politico and Ipsos published a new poll on Monday and found that 1/3 of independent voters said that they were less likely to support Trump now that he's been convicted in New York of falsifying business records. How crucial do you think that independent vote is to both Trump and Biden?
Well, it's huge. It's going to determine the outcome of the election. We know that this is going to be a close race. It was in 20, it was in 16. It was decided by tens of thousands of voters and will likely be decided in just a handful of states. So independent voters are key, and that's the danger signal for Trump. As strong and loyal as his base is, the base is not enough. He's got to win a majority of independent voters, and of course those soft Republican voters who specifically voted for Nikki Haley. I mean, Nikki Haley was winning up to 20% of the vote in some primaries where she wasn't even formally on the ballot. She'd withdrawn her name, even though her name was on the ballot. She wasn't technically running, and she was still getting 20% of the vote. So, you know, that's the challenge for Donald Trump, is to make sure he's going to need, a good, solid, percentage of those voters. He's going to need most of those voters in order to win in November. And so it's a crucial key swing vote for the election. And you can be sure that both campaigns will be focusing like a laser on those voters.
What does that tell you, that you still have such a large percentage of voters who are casting their votes for Nikki Haley?
Well, it says that people aren't happy. And what we know is that this is a remarkable election in the sense that 3/4 of the American electorate are unhappy with both choices. In the greatest democracy in the world, we have two guys who are 80 years old, You know, you cannot be 66 years old in America and be a park ranger, but you can run for president.
We've asked this question to a number of different people. I'd like to ask you the same. Who do you think that RFK Jr. steals more votes from? Is that more of a problem for Biden or Trump?
Well, that's the enigma of Robert F. Kennedy, is that, I mean, if you want to know who he's threatening, just look at who's attacking him. And both candidates are attacking him. You know, for a while, it was just Biden. Everybody was sure that he was a Biden problem. Then suddenly Trump started attacking him. So you can be sure that his data and his people began to see problems on their side of the ledger, because he's got a weird appeal. I mean, he's an anti-vax guy, so he appeals to that anti-vax crowd on the right, but he's a strong environmentalist, and so he gets strong support from the left on that side. So, you know, at the end of the day, I say it's likely more problematic for Biden just because he's the incumbent in this case, and it's always a problem for the incumbent because, you know, that's where people are most likely to be looking for an option.
Should Republicans be concerned that many states are seeking to restrict the right of a woman to choose?
100%. I mean, we know from off-cycle elections, particularly the Kansas referendum on a woman's right to choose. There, it was a big shock. Kansas obviously is a very conservative state, and they overwhelmingly supported a referendum to support a woman's right to choose. So that's something that activated Democrats in a big way. And the question is, in an off-year election in 2022, the question is, will that animate as many people in a regular presidential election? So that's one of the few issues that Biden has an advantage on right now. There's not many, but on this issue, that's something that that Democrats have a decided advantage of, and you can bet that you'll be hearing a lot about that from Democrats in the coming months.
Of course, Democrats have to worry about softening support for President Biden, his age, immigration, the war in Gaza. Voters cite all of these as reasons why they may not vote for him. Do we expect those concerns to grow through November, or do you think they'll stay pretty steady? Those who've kind of decided whether those are issues are mitigating factors or not.
Well, as you were just talking about, immigration is a big issue, obviously, for voters, and Biden is finally taking some action on that. And, you know, for a lot of voters, it may be not enough and too late, but at least he's doing something on that issue. The problem is that the biggest problem for Biden is his age, and that's not going to get any better between now and November. You know, that's why this next debate is really critical, because if Biden can get on the stage and show that he can go toe-to-toe with Trump, I think that'll go a long way toward restoring people's faith in the notion that Biden's up to the job.
Mark McKinnon, we thank you so much for your insight. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And if you're an undecided voter still considering who you'll support this November, we want to hear from you. Find out more by scanning the QR code right there on the screen. And ABC News may contact you to be part of our election coverage.